Hello and welcome to my channel. I have to get the audio correct, so give me a moment. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Skeeterate, or that's what they call me on Ancestry. Today I want to talk a little bit about African American history or Black family history, whichever one you prefer. At the age of 3, my parents actually had a bit of separation. And so my mother didn't speak of my dad or keep pictures of him or anything like that. Unfortunately, Daddy died in 1966. I was only 9 years old. I remember very little about him, mostly about him in the hospital, this long, tall black man in a bed. So my vision of him is very sketchy. My mom would die in 1985. And so I began my research into my family around that time. So, and I'm gotta stop saying so. I began my research during that time. I want to share with you um, some things that I learned so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. And I'm gonna make these little small segments so they're not very time consuming, because I know people don't like to sit and listen for a very long period of time. So I'm going to try to keep them under 30 minutes. Today, I'm going to talk about marriage license, um, what to look for. So I'm going to share my screen. Screen sharing. Here we are. Now, as I was saying, my mother, Lurania E. Bowman, this is her birth certificate. I wasn't able to find my father's birth certificate. I wrote to Vital Records, and Vital Records do a search. I think it's a 10-year search. And Vital Records they wrote me back and told me that they were not able to find any information on my father. You have to give them the parent's name, the grandparent's name if you know them, if you know one of whichever one you know. You try to give them the birth date. You try to give them as much information as you know about the individual before you write them. There is a fee for a Vital Record search. You do not get it back if they don't find anybody. So they will write you, though, if they find somebody, or if they don't. They'll send it to you, of course, if they find it. So this particular records, they weren't able to find anything, but Daddy was born somewhere between 1927 and 1928. And so he may have been born at home by a midwife, and it was never reported. So I didn't get anything there. I was able to find my mother's information and get that for my files. And that information showed me that my mother was, at the time when she was born, this was called Robinson, Georgia. It's not no longer called that. The post office was Robinson. The post office now is totally different. It tells me what her father's name. It tells me her mother's name, her mother's maiden name. It tells me their age, where granddaddy was born. But today, I'm going to talk about marriage license, not birth certificate. So let's go up one. Actually, I'm going to start with the license itself. This is the marriage license. And in the beginning, I collected only the marriage license. I don't know why this plate is getting on my nerves right now, but I collected the marriage license. The marriage license do give you some information. It tells me that my father was 27. Now, this information isn't always on a marriage license. They don't have to report the age of the person, but this one does tell me that Henry Howard, this is my father, was 27, and Lorraine Bowman was 23, and that they were married on October the 1st, 1955, and they was married at the courthouse. See right here, it says title, ordinary, Taliaferro County. This is pronounced Taliaferro. It's spelled Taliaferro, but it is pronounced Taliaferro. And on some older documents, people outside of the county, you will find Tolliver, or some similar spelling, because they are going to spell it the way that we pronounce it. So we pronounce it Tolliver. Now, this says that they were married on October the 1st. This information was filed on October the 5th, but it's 1955, the marriage license. So in the beginning, this is what I would get. I would get the marriage license. And then later on, I learned that it's better to get a marriage application. Now, if you are in Georgia, I learned also that marriage license, the farther back you go, you may not be able to find a marriage license, because each state was different in how they collected this information, if they even asked for it at all. So 1929 is when the federal government made worldwide civil marriage laws. So in 1929, you should be able to find a marriage license on the person you look for. And the reason the marriage license is very important is you will see Henry Howard. It would tell you where he was living at the time. It would tell you his birth date, which, by the way, this is going to change for my father at least 3 times. It would tell you the place he was born, what race he is, what his job was at the time, and what his education level was. He was 3rd grade. And so number of previous marriages, any legal impediment, and his father's name. Now, this is Granddaddy's nickname. Everyone called him Ruth. So Daddy didn't put down his actual birth name. He may not have known. We call him Ruth all his life. His father, it says his father was born in Greene County. His mother maiden name is Fannie Lou Meadows. The place she was born is Taliaferro County. So this is a world of information that you need to have if you're doing Black history research or African American research. This is information that is so vital, because now you know his mother is Fannie Lou Meadows. You just found her maiden name, which was important to me because Fannie Lou Meadows was deceased. She died before Dad turned 55. So I never met her. When I was born, Grandfather Ruth had a second wife, and that's the wife that I knew. As I said, my mother and dad did have a bit of separation, but she would let me go and visit his grandfather sometime, because they had a child. He and his second wife had a child, a young girl, and I would go and visit my aunt. And so I was allowed to visit her, but my aunt knew very little about my dad. As a matter of fact, they didn't speak much of him either. A lot of people didn't know him. So and he had spent some time in prison, which was common for Black men. For some reason, we seem to get arrested more than other people, more than other races. So Daddy did have a record. And so his stepmom knew very little about him. His father, grandfather, was just a quiet person. He pretty much kept to himself. On the other hand, it tells me stuff about my mother I already knew. I grew up with my mom, her family. I lived next door to her family. So this information I basically knew. That was only thing new on it was that it was Robertson, Georgia. Because when I was coming up as a girl, the county, the city and state was totally different. And it told me that my mother was in nursing, that she graduated in the 11th grade. And I learned later on that's as far as the school went when she graduated. So it wasn't that she didn't graduate, she did. It only went as far as the 11th grade. And her parents' names I already knew. So this information about my father was very important to me. And I took that information, I wrote it down. Now, because we called grandfather Ruth all of his life, to find out what his real name was, I ordered the Social Security application for my dad. As you see on here, there's no Social Security number. But once you find a Social Security card, and I found his old original Social Security card, and I saved that too, I was able to write to the Freedom of Information Act and get the application for Social Security. And I do think that they charged me $32 for that information. But that information had his father's real name, Albert. It also had another birthday for my dad. It had basically the only information new is that this was his name, Albert. I think everything else is the same. Yes, everything else is the same. Fannie Lou Meadows is still on there. So, and it seems like my father applied for this application at the same time he applied for this marriage license, because the dates are the same, October the 1st, 1955. So I don't know if he had lost his Social Security number and was writing for a replacement. It doesn't say. So the thing that was so exciting to me when I found this application was right here, my father's signature. It looked so much like my brother. My brother is Henry Nathan Jr. And this signature looked so much like his. I couldn't wait to tell him this. Look at this. You and Daddy write intense. Even though Daddy only had a 3rd grade education, he was very good at spelling his name. And my brother, who never met his dad, because I was 11 when Dad died. No, I'm sorry. I was not 11. I was 9 when Dad died. My brother would have been 7. So he never met Dad at all. He don't remember him at all. So this was amazing to me that their handwriting was so similar. They both write very small. Okay, enough of that. Now, the other thing I want to mention to you is that there are free websites out there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. One more thing about the marriage license. Let me exit out of here. My computer is slow. I live in a dead zone. Please move. I guess I should have just lowered it rather than tried to exit out. Because now I want to do more than I want to do. Just minimize it, please. Okay, well, like I said, my computer is slow. Let me see, can I go some other way to get to this? Here we are. The further you go back on marriage license, you're going to get to the part where they are handwritten. This is what this is. My Fannie Lou Meadows, I just talked about her a little bit. That was my father's mother, Fannie Lou Meadows. So his mom is Fannie Lou Meadows. Fannie Lou Meadows' mom is Fannie Lou Meadows' dad. It's a man named Casper Meadows. And Casper Meadows' mother is a lady named Lucinda Mitchell, and his daddy is Ebenezer Meadows. So I was able to find Ebenezer Meadows' marriage license. Here it is in the same county, Taliaferro County, on page 125, and it says, State of Georgia, Taliaferro County, to any minister of the gospel, judge, JP, Justice of the Peace, or any person authorized to celebrate. These are to authorize and permit you to join in the supposed to be holy state of matrimony. Ebenezer Meadows of the one part and Miss Lucinda Mitchell of the other part, according to the rites of your church, provided there be no lawful cause to obstruct the same, and this shall be your authority for so doing. given under my hand as ordinary for the county aforesaid this 10th day of November, 1880. Charles A. Beasley, ordinary. Charles A. Beasley was in office for a very long time. Um, I hereby certify that Ebenezer Meadows and Lucinda Mitchell were joined together in the holy bonds of matrimony by me on the 11th day of November, 1880. This is recorded March the 16th, 1880, by Green F. Moore, colored, M.G., minister of the gospel. So this tells you, first you got to learn how to read. It's always a good thing to learn to read the handwritings, because there are certain letters that are made totally different back in 1800s, early 1900s, than you would see them today. For instance, the S's are like that. So if you, the more you see these, the more you read them, the better you get, because each person had a different handwriting. I've gotten familiar with them now since I've been doing this since over 30 years. And so I've gotten used to reading them and seeing them. This is your common marriage license. It tells you, again, the maiden name of the person, Lucinda Mitchell. It tells you what day they were married. On the other one, it told you the day they was married, and then the license would tell you the day they applied for the license. You don't always have to be married the same day. There is a time frame that you have to, when you get your application, you have a certain time frame in order to be married before you have to, it's null and void. Marriage license is really important because they said, this is my husband. Now, there's a lot of laws that governs what husbands and wives can do. For instance, a wife couldn't own property by herself until a certain time frame. So there's some information you have to know in order to find certain things. But for as marriage license concerned, you just have to remember, for Black people, that if you don't find a marriage license for the 1800s, that doesn't mean they weren't married. They could still jump the broom at that point. And so sometimes that's what they did. And I found that some people who jumped the broom, once they became legal to be married, they also would go back and get married. And so it make it seem like, in this case, 1880, although they've had been married and they've been together, and they have, I think, a child born before this time, they would probably have jumped the broom before they legally went back and married each other. Does that make any sense? Before they went back and got married. So they were married in 1880 in November. They're going to have 2 boys. Ebenezer's going to actually disappear. We don't know what happened to him. He left one day going to work and never came back. So that's it for marriage license. If you have any questions, of course, leave them below in the comment section. And I appreciate you coming today. I want you to remember, always start your family search by interviewing your family. Interviewing your family. Always keep good notes. The worst thing you can do is don't keep notes and end up forgetting what you found, where you found it, and duplicating your work. Duplicating that work is just very frustrating, to go back and have to do something over again. So always keep good notes. Interview your family. If you can, go ahead and record them. Now you can buy the little digital cameras, camcorders, record your older ancestors, write that information down if you can't record them. This is so great to look back on those. My mother used to make little VH tapes, and so I would play them at night. She loved to sing. She sung gospel and she sung jazz. And so at night, when I want to hear her voice, I would play those tapes. I have nothing of my dad other than what's on paper. No pictures, nothing like that. So it is always a pleasure for me when I do find a little bit of things about him. And it's kind of sad because he's my dad. It's not like I have to go back to my great-great-great-grandfather. This is my father who I can't find information on. But I do want to continue to pass on information to you that may help you with your research. I've been doing this for 30 years now, and I love it. I simply adore family history research. Anyway, have a great day and happy hunting.